The site of the RNC has become ironic in light of recent events. In 1912, President Teddy Roosevelt survived a would-be assassin's bullet in Milwaukee while giving a campaign speech. Glenn Beck is the host of the Glenn Beck program and co-founder of Blaze Media, and he joins me now. So, Glenn, the location of Roosevelt's assassination attempt is eerie enough, but what are some of the other parallels that you see with his life attempt and Donald Trump's from over the weekend?
So it is really interesting to me. By the way, hi, I love your show. It's interesting to me that the way Donald Trump handled the assassination attempt is almost identical to what Teddy Roosevelt did. Most people will know the phrase, "It takes more than that to kill a bull moose." The actual phrase was, "It takes more than one bullet to kill a bull moose." Teddy Roosevelt was running for what would be a third term because McKinley was assassinated and he was the vice president. And so he took over McKinley's first term. Then he was reelected to a second term. And then in 1912, he decides to run again. And he is the spoiler because the Republican is already been chosen, and Woodrow Wilson is running as a Democrat, and Theodore Roosevelt decides to run as a Bull Moose Party, the Progressive Party candidate. So he comes into town. He's supposed to give a big speech at the auditorium. And he comes into town, and he's driving in. He has dinner. These are Teddy Roosevelt's spectacles, by the way. He has dinner. He gets back into the car afterwards, and he's going to the auditorium. He takes his glasses, and he puts them in this case. Now, these are Teddy Roosevelt's glasses and his case, but not the one that he carried that night. He then put this case, which has a steel backing on it, into his pocket, along with a speech that he had, which was 50 pages. And he folded it like this, and he put that in his overcoat pocket as well. So he's walking outside, and there's this guy who believes that McKinley's ghost had come to him and said, "You got to kill Roosevelt because he was responsible for my death, and he shouldn't run for a third term because he's not George Washington." Because nobody ran more than 2 terms because of George Washington. So as he's getting into the car, he's shot by this guy. "Mr. President," he turns, shoots him right here in the chest. As he gets into the car, people tackle the guy. He's thrown into the car. They start to drive away, and that's when somebody notices the bullet hole in his jacket. And Theodore Roosevelt puts his hand in by his shirt and comes out, and his hand is all bloody. He didn't realize it because it didn't go into his lungs. It lodged between 2 ribs because the speech and his glasses caught that bullet. He died years later with that bullet still lodged in his chest. But he went on to give the speech. The doctors said, please don't. We've got to get you to the hospital. He was bleeding profusely. He said, and I quote, "I don't care a rap about being shot, not a rap." He said, "I'm going to give my speech." He goes on stage. He's got his coat on. And at one point he said that he had turned down the doctors to take him to the hospital. He said, "I'm going to ask you to be very quiet. Please excuse me for making a long speech, but I'll do the best that I can because, well, you see, there's a bullet in my body, but I'm not hurt badly. Somebody just tried to shoot me." Well, nobody really believed him until he held up the pages of his speech first. And this is a page of that actual speech. Let me put something behind it so you can see where it had been folded. These are the bullet holes in that speech. And he went on to give almost a 90-minute speech. The doctors tried to stop him from giving the speech twice on stage where he got a little lightheaded. And he just looked at them and said, "I'm going to finish the speech. Leave me alone." He did. He finished the speech, and then he went to the hospital. So when Donald Trump got up and he said, wait, And then he looked at the crowd and held his fist up and he said, "Fight." Immediately thought of Theodore Roosevelt. I just think the parallels are incredible. And it was, on the way to be nominated for his party's candidate to be president of the United States, just like now Donald Trump is there in Wisconsin again to be nominated for president of the United States.
When I look at Donald Trump and Teddy Roosevelt, the first thing that comes to my mind is, you know Donald Trump better than most. He never backs away from a fight, right? That's what Teddy Roosevelt is known for. And,
Right.
If Trump ever needed another reason to go, another list there by his name, this weekend is absolutely going to be there solidifying his legacy for the American people on par with a Teddy Roosevelt.
I think he is, you want to talk about somebody who's not a politician, really doesn't like to be a politician. Roosevelt really liked being a politician. I don't think Trump does. He's more of a businessman and a showman. He likes the attention. He likes the stage work, but he doesn't like the fact that his family has been dragged through the mud. His family has been drug into court. He has been dragged into court as well. Look at what he has, the cost, the high price that he has paid to be president. Why would you do that unless you just have nothing else in your life, which Donald Trump does have many things in his life he could turn to, or you really believe it. And I think you saw the determination when he sat in court and just took it day in and day out and said, I'm fighting for you. What they're doing to me, they'll do to you. He really believed it. This, I think, has changed him even more. I talked to Selena Zito, who spoke to him yesterday morning, and she said that she thought a road to Damascus moment had happened with Donald Trump. He is convinced, and so am I, that was divine providence. I talked to the world's greatest sniper on radio today, and I said, have you ever had a shot that close and had somebody turn their head and it misses? And he said, never. He said, that's a miracle. And I think Donald Trump has answers to a higher calling now. It's not just about him being president and serving the American people. I think that he has, there's a good possibility that he has fundamentally changed as a man and is now more determined than ever.
I completely agree with you. And we now know the full ticket for Donald Trump on the VP slot will be filled by J.D. Vance. Your thoughts? I saw you tweet out earlier that you think this is going to be one of those things that allows Donald Trump to continue his legacy. J.D. Vance is one of the most MAGA senators out there right now.
It's really interesting because they say that Donald Trump is so vengeful and everything else. No, he's not. J.D. Vance was not a supporter of Donald Trump's for a very long time. He's changed his mind, just like I changed my mind on Donald Trump after watching him. And now he's being embraced. He is a pick that I think, it was very important for the president to pick the next president, really, because you have 4 years now, and you can't get anything done in 4 years. It's almost impossible to do it in 8 years. But if J.D. Vance plays his cards right and Donald Trump does what I hope he's going to do and restores the Constitution and the constitutional powers, I think we could be looking at 12 years. And to see Donald Trump recognize that he has 4 years and he needs somebody to not be George H.W. Bush to Trump's Reagan, he needs somebody to actually believe in what he's doing and will continue on. To me, I thought that showed a humility a you could interpret this as I do, as Donald Trump saying, I know I'm only going to be there 4 years. Everything you say I'm going to do about never leave the office is not true. I have 4 years, and that's why I picked him. I think it was a really good move.
I want to switch gears with you now because you have a new book coming out and it's your first young adult novel. It's called Chasing Embers and it comes out next week. And Glenn, I've read it and I think that it ties actually so well into the times that we're living in now because it's about knowing our history. And if you don't know your history, you're going to be doomed to repeat all of the bad things, or they're going to take out the things that we do want to continue and the traditions that we should be keeping forward.
So I thank you for reading it. Are you enjoying it?
I love it. I think it's very much in the vein of a Hunger Games where you can see this as a series. It's very much going to give young readers something to be excited about. I love it.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. It is, to me, it is important to get into the culture. I've never written a book for young adults before. Michaela, who works for me, she is also the co-author of this book. I gave her the storyline, and then we worked together on fleshing it all out, and we've got, I think, 7 or 8 books in as sequels for it. If this is successful, but it has to go in to the culture. It has to be taught in a different way. You know, I was really sad on Saturday after the president was shot. We were having a family reunion here, and so there were about 30 of my relatives here and the kids, and I decided to talk about the history of our country and show them some of the artifacts like I just did with Theodore Roosevelt, and share with them the principles that we all share. And one of the kids, probably in the 4th grade, said, we're not taught any of that. And all of the adults said the same thing. I didn't know that. It is so critical to know why we're a republic and not a democracy. It seems like just semantics, but it's not. And if we don't learn our history, we will lose it. And Saturday, I don't know if people really realized that could have been the end of the republic as we know it. We could have gone into civil war. We could have gone into a lockdown of some sort. I mean, we're in a very dangerous place. So what is it that we're fighting for? It's not for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is not fighting for the office of the presidency. He should be, and I believe he is, fighting for the Constitution and the Republic. And it's a very, very delicate thing. And I hope that people go out and buy this for their kids or their grandkids and give it to them. And don't tell them that it's a history book, but it is. These kids are living in this dystopian world where history has been erased, and they have to find out if the truth even matters, and then what is the truth, and what is the truth worth?
When I was reading this book, I would go through and say, what does it mean if we actually lose the truth and try and get it back? And that was one of the things that I just kept reading through. We have about a minute left here, Glenn. It's not only the children's books, the young adult fiction book that you're writing, but you're also trying to just go out there and restore history. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, we see you with the Teddy Roosevelt artifacts. Why does this mean so much to you?
Because I understood the country for the first time when I was 35 or 40, when I started learning history. I mean, I was not interested in history. I didn't know, I knew the basics, red, white, and blue, and Yankee Doodle and all that stuff. But it wasn't until I actually started looking at the stories and the people that I learned not only who we are, but who we have been, the lessons that we need to learn. We keep making the same mistakes over and over again. And if you could just go back and look and say, no, remember when we did this, we would be able to fix our problems pretty quickly. And I think because of what's happening in the country, what happened over the weekend, I think we're on the verge of winning.
I hope
All
you're
we
right.
have to do is remember.